I lost the dare, and my boyfriend insisted I steal a bite from the poor student's meal. What are you waiting for? Go on. I can't wait to see him lose his cool. Am I back to 10 years ago, approaching the poor student? I grabbed a piece of pickled radish and popped it into my mouth. He looked up, his eyes cold. Then, under everyone's gaze, I placed sweet and sour ribs and braised pork all onto his plate. This is to make up for the radish I took. I hope you don't mind. I looked at the future tech mogul, my eyes smiling. Hello Susun at 17, I'm Mengyu, also 17, it just so happened that year you were insecure, and it just so happened that year I was radiant. 1. Mengyu, you lost the dare, go ahead and grab a bite from his bowl. When I opened my eyes again, my childhood friend and boyfriend Fu Ran was cheekily urging me to snag some food from Susun's bowl. The wealthy friends around us cheered him on.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the cool, aloof scholar embarrassed. What cool, aloof scholar, just a poor nobody. Right now, he might have grades to show off, but once he's out in society, he'll just be working for us. Listening to them mock Susun, I scoffed. Birds of a feather flock together. As always, even the most innocent students have their own circles. I am the daughter of a government official. Fu Ran is the son of a wealthy businessman. We grew up together in the same luxurious neighborhood. Childhood sweethearts, thus. Those we hung out with were all rich or noble, but I never liked this circle. However, I had no choice, as my parents restricted my social circle. Besides them, no one else played with me. 10 years ago, influenced by them, I took a piece of pickled radish from Susun's bowl. Then, I placed a chocolate I had with me next to his hand. That was the only interaction between him and me throughout our youth. Back then, he always walked with his head down, so low, as if he would sink into the dust at any moment. 10 years later, I had completely forgotten about him, until we met again at a sweet potato stall. By then, he had become a famous tech mogul, a powerful and influential figure, whereas I, after my father's imprisonment and my husband's abandonment, had become the city's biggest joke. 3. Why take such a long detour just to buy these lousy sweet potatoes? A woman with a new Hermes complained by the stall. Hey, these aren't lousy sweet potatoes. These are golden sweet potatoes baked by the daughter of a chief. Mr. Zhou, is that really Miss Meng? She looks like she's in her 30s, guaranteed. After her father was brought down and Fu Ran left her, she ended up like this? That's too sad. Hearing them speak, the Hermes woman, stepping forward in her heels, approached me. Boss, give me 10 more sweet potatoes, make them tasty. I'm buying them for my housekeepers and drivers. I smiled ingratiatingly. Of course, miss. You are both beautiful and kind. Hearing me call her a miss, she became even happier. Make it another 10. The man on the other side grabbed her. Why buy so much? You can't finish it all. She frowned disdainfully. How could I possibly eat this kind of low-class food? Low-class food? In the past, I always liked to buy street food to feed stray cats, but I never ate any myself. At that moment, the boomerang of youth hit me right between the eyes. I pursed my lips and sped up the flipping of the food. Let me help you. When Susun, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, appeared before me, I was completely stunned. He took me, a homeless person, to his private villa. There was no imprisonment, no coercion, nothing lecherous. He simply, like a friend, gave me a place to stay and helped me find a decent job. I was grateful to him and always thought about how to repay his kindness, but I didn't know how. On many nights, when I went out to get water, I would see Susun standing in front of the large floor-to-ceiling window, his pale fingers holding a lit cigarette. The moonlight spread coolly over the ground, surrounding him in a chill, consumed by solitude. Often, I wanted to hug him from behind to comfort him, but I had no right to do so. Time passed. He truly expected nothing from me. He lacked nothing. Maybe he took me home simply because he felt pity for me, just like how I used to pick up stray cats and dogs from the streets, until he fell ill from overwork and was diagnosed with cancer. He still remembered my birthday and insisted on having me make a wish and blow out candles by his hospital bed. He said, a princess's birthday must be ceremonial. Indeed, later on, he always liked to call me princess. The disease had ravaged him. He was so thin that his eye sockets were hollow, barely human. Even his hand, placing candles, was pale and bony. He strained to smile at me. Princess, happy birthday. His voice was faint. I had to lean close to his mouth to hear him clearly, tears in my eyes. I watched him, but he kept smiling at me. Quick, blow out the candles. His gaze, as if trying to etch my face into his memory forever. Smiling, he closed his eyes. The hand holding mine suddenly lost its strength. Hanging limply by the bed, I tasted the flavor of sadness, like trees and grass soaked in a heavy rain, damp and aching all over. Trembling, I blew out the candles and closed my eyes to make a wish. Oh God. My wish for my 27th birthday is to go back to being 17. Unexpectedly, my birthday wish came true. When I opened my eyes again, my rowdy friends were pushing me around. Miss Meng, what are you dazed about? Come on, I can't wait to see him explode. They laughed maliciously in Su Sun's direction. 17-year-old Su Sun was sitting in a corner eating, the lighting was dim, his silhouette lonely, just like him at 27, whether in poverty or wealth, he always kept to himself. Seeing him young and healthy again, my eyes welled up with tears. I approached Susan boldly with my tray. As he dined on the free pickled vegetables provided by the cafeteria, he saw that I wanted to sit next to him. The already cramped space tightened further as he shifted to make room. My large tray held nothing but rice, pickled radish, pickled cabbage, and a bowl of broth with pickled vegetables that had no trace of oil. At that moment, I felt a piercing pain spread through my body. After he was diagnosed with cancer, he could have tried chemotherapy, but the doctor said his body was too weak, malnourished from his younger days, which had left him with chronic health issues. Ultimately, he didn't even survive the second round of chemotherapy. Looking at his gaunt face, I choked up. Could you let me have some? I tried to control my emotions, but couldn't complete my sentence. He must think I'm crazy. I composed myself and remained silent, surprising him. I picked up a piece of radish and put it in my mouth. It was salty and astringent, like chewing wax. Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. When I looked up again, I only saw his cold expression. Classmate, you can get pickled radish for free over there. Please don't make such boring jokes. At this point in the cafeteria, many students had stopped eating and turned to look at us, their voices loud with discussion, especially the table in front of us, where the voices were loudest. Miss Meng is really bold, daring to provoke the aloof genius. It's only your high school classmates who call him a genius. His nickname in elementary and middle school was Disaster. Oh, why do they call him a disaster? Isn't it because he caused the death of his biological parents? And also, hearing the word a disaster, he clenched his fists, veins bulging on his pale skin. Before the girl at the front table could finish, I stood up. Didn't your parents teach you not to gossip about classmates behind their backs? Still not satisfied, I added, you may have parents, but it seems you lack home training. The girl I confronted didn't dare to provoke me further, only muttering quietly. Is she on the wrong medication? Didn't she used to tease Susun? This angered me even more, and I was about to give her a piece of my mind, then I felt a cold touch on my hand. It was Susun holding me back. Sit down and eat. His tone was calm, and his expression had returned to normal. After sitting down, under everyone's gaze, I moved all the sweet and sour ribs and braised pork from my bowl to his plate. I said with a pleading look, this is to make up for eating your radish. I hope you don't mind. Oh, and although we've been classmates for so long, it seems we've never really met. Hello, 17-year-old Susun, I'm 17-year-old Mengyu. I smiled brightly and reached out my hand in friendship. My words poured out rapidly, and he just stared blankly as my mouth moved. I'm full. After a pause, he dropped those words and left, leaving me stunned in place, and the chocolate I had almost squeezed to a pulp, still ungiven. After I arrived, I didn't eat anything at all. Later, feeling guilty, I gave him a piece of chocolate when I left. Fu Ran even mocked that this would be the best thing Su Sun would ever eat in his life, but 10 years later, while I was organizing Su Sun's study, I saw that piece of chocolate again on his desk. Su Sun had preserved it under a delicate glass dome filled with a special gas to prevent it from decaying. In that moment, countless thoughts flashed through my mind and a surge of emotions overwhelmed me. The chocolate in the palm of my hand revealed the secret he had kept hidden, but now, the vast differences in our social statuses and the great disparity made me suppress all those thoughts. After all, it's just a piece of chocolate. What could it really signify? I'm no longer the wealthy young lady I once was. What right do I have to stand by his side? Ha! 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 Mengyu, that was rather harsh of you, giving your leftovers to the unlucky star. If anyone is insulting, it's you, the young mistress. Fu Ran plopped down next to me. I looked at him in surprise. So in their eyes, my actions were an insult to Su Sun. Could it be that Su Sun thought the same? What a fool I am. All I thought about was wanting him to eat well, but the way I expressed it was so upsetting. Pei Pei sat on the other side, speaking slowly. But why did you help that disaster earlier? Those girls weren't wrong. Su Sun caused the death of his own parents and his younger sister. If you get close to him, sooner or later, he'll bring disaster upon you too. Pei Pei was also part of our circle. As the son of the principal, he had considerable influence at school. He had a violent temper and often bullied his classmates under the guise of playing games. After my family fell into decline, Fu Ran's attitude towards me changed overnight. He began to encourage me to curry favor with Pei Pei, all for a big contract, but I foolishly continued to harbor illusions about them. After all, we had been friends for many years. It wasn't until a joint family trip, when Fu Ran went to the room next door and Pei Pei entered my room, that I realized how rotten our circle had become. I gave Pei Pei a cold look and retorted irritably, so superstitious. Then why keep doing heartless things without fearing being struck by lightning one day? Pei Pei's face turned pale instantly. Mengyu, what did you say? Say that again if you dare. Seeing our confrontation escalating, Fu Ran quickly tried to mediate. No, Master Pei. She's not in her right mind today, don't take it to heart. I shook off his disgusting, filthy hand. You're no better, a rotten person. Both were stunned by my sharp insults. They seemed not to understand how I had suddenly changed today. Before they could react, I quickly returned to the classroom. I couldn't stand to stay in this thoroughly rotten circle a moment longer. When I got back to the classroom, the bell for class had already rung. I had no choice but to wait until after class to explain to Soo-sun that I hadn't meant to put my leftovers in his bowl. This class was my least favorite, math. Although I wasn't in the mood to study, I forced myself to pay attention. In my previous life, it was because of neglecting subjects like this that I didn't get into a good university. After graduating from college, I married Fu Ran. I spent the first half of my life depending on my father, and the second half would depend on my husband. This is how people ruin themselves. So, after I broke away from that circle, due to my lack of specialized skills and impressive educational background, I found myself destitute, selling sweet potatoes. Given a second chance by fate, I was determined to seize it firmly. I listened intently, eyes wide open, for half a class. Unfortunately, friends will leave you, husbands will betray you, but math won't, because what you don't know in math, you just don't know. Listening to a math class was like trying to understand an arcane script to me. Sighing, I looked around, my gaze settled to the left. There sat a figure, both unfamiliar yet familiar, sitting upright attentively, eyes fixed on the blackboard, occasionally jotting down calculations on a piece of paper. He was lean, his face pale and gaunt, lacking vitality, with a persistent shade of light blue shadowing his brow, compared to his commanding presence 10 years later. He now appeared somewhat green and insecure. Mengyu, what are you staring at? Stand up and tell us. Caught staring at Soo-sun too intently, I was called out by the old math teacher. Calmly standing up, I cheekily replied. I was looking at Soo-sun. The class erupted in murmurs. Only Soo-sun continued to quietly work on his problems, though his fair ears visibly reddened. My math was poor, and this bold declaration only infuriated the teacher further. Come on, tell me. What about him are you looking at? Don't even think of leaving class until you explain, I said with a beaming smile. Because he's handsome. That remark set the whole class abuzz. As expected, I was asked to leave the classroom. However, given my father's status, it wasn't long before another teacher took me to the office to cool off in the air conditioning. After class, I couldn't wait to find Soo-sun to explain about the meal. He kept his head down, working on problems, and didn't look at me, merely responding lightly. It's okay. I didn't think much of it. I breathed a sigh of relief. Glad you didn't misunderstand me. He was surprisingly easy to get along with. Why had I always thought he was so cold and difficult before? Seeing him still focused on his problems, I felt it improper to disturb him further. I placed my favorite chocolate next to his hand, bent down, and smiled at him. This is my favorite chocolate. For you. He glanced at it, then his gaze returned to his book. Thanks, but I don't eat it. It's really tasty, just try it. I peeled off the chocolate's foil wrapper and popped it into his mouth. My fingertips brushed his lips, sending a tingling sensation through my body. He looked at me in shock. I was flustered, time seemed to stop, and he even forgot to chew, my face burning. But with no turning back, I bravely said, it tastes good, right? I didn't lie. I'll bring you some every day. With that, I ran off. When school was over, Fu Ran blocked my way home. I frowned at him. What's up? His arms crossed, his expression displeased. What's gotten into you today? Why are you so nice to that jinx? I want to. Why do you care? He grabbed my shoulders. Today, because of Soo-sun, you offended Pei. Soo-sun will become his next target in his games? No way. Is he crazy? If he has a problem, he should come at me. Hearing Soo-sun's name made me anxious. Fu Ran's eyes darkened as he gripped my chin, his words deliberate. Mengyu, don't tell me you've fallen for that trash. With a sneer, I said, if I don't love him, do you think I'd love someone like you, Mengyu? He was infuriated by my words, angrily pushing me against the wall and kissing me forcefully. Memories of the past flashed through my mind. I felt so disgusted that I almost threw up. I pushed him away with all my might and slapped him across the face. What are you doing, Fu Ran? He loomed over me, using his strength to pin me tightly between his arms. What am I doing? Didn't I tell you that the woman you saw that day was my sister? Weren't you just trying to provoke me by bringing up Soo-sun? Wow, this scumbag. I've really had it with him. Just as I was about to retort, I caught a glimpse of someone out of the corner of my eye. Soo-sun, he was holding a trash can. Walking towards the classroom, as he passed by, his gaze fell on Fu Ran and me. In just a second, he casually shifted his gaze away and continued on his way. My chest felt painfully tight, so, he must think again that I approached him just to irritate Fu Ran. I seized the moment to deliver a strong hit to Fu Ran's vulnerable spot. Fu Ran doubled over in pain. If you're sick, go see a doctor. Okay, I dropped that line and ran after Soo-sun. Soo-sun, it took me a while to catch up to him. I grabbed his sleeve and explained, I don't like Fu Ran, he's a scoundrel, he forced me just now. Susan kept walking, his long strides meant that his quick pace was like a jog to me. As he moved swiftly, he responded, Miss Meng, I'm not interested in your romantic affairs, you don't need to explain. He's not my boyfriend. Then, remembering that we hadn't officially broken up, I added, although we haven't broken up yet, we will soon. He stopped, looked at me seriously, and said, Meng Yu. I'm neither interested nor have the time to be a plaything for you wealthy folks, please don't talk to me anymore, thank you. The last two words, he almost gritted out. After saying that, he walked away without looking back, his words felt like a cold shower from head to toe. I stood there for a while, feeling the sunset was particularly glaring. Why are there always so many misunderstandings between us, always missing each other? It's okay, I comforted myself. Now I am the daughter of a high-ranking official, what does rejection matter to me? I followed him again, but this time, it provoked his anger. Stop following me, get lost. 10 years later, it was just like 10 years ago, this was the first time in all our time together that he had been so harsh with me. Looking at his fierce demeanor, I felt helpless. After a while, I managed to muster a smile. Well then, goodbye. See you tomorrow. Turning away, my eyes moist, my heart felt choked, for several days. I left chocolates on his desk, of course, he threw them all into the trash can. I stared at the chocolates in the trash for a long time, feeling lost, sad, powerless. These emotions surged like the sea, enveloping me. It's okay, misunderstandings, there's always a way to clear them up. Because Pei Pei announced that Su Sun would be the target of the next game, the whole class started to refuse cooperation with Su Sun during his role as the math class representative. Whenever Su Sun went to collect homework, there were always those who deliberately dropped their assignments on the floor, forcing him to bend down and pick them up. So, I took it upon myself to help him collect them. The next time I placed the collected homework on his desk, he finally spoke up. Classmate Meng, I've resigned from the class representative position. Please, keep your distance from me from now on. The small flame of hope that had rekindled within me was abruptly extinguished. After a few seconds of silence, I couldn't help but ask again, why? He glanced up at me, his eyes cold and indifferent, his thin lips uttered chilling words, because I hate you. I don't remember how I managed to return to my seat. That entire day, I was utterly distraught. I couldn't understand why. Why, even after returning 10 years back, was it still so difficult? Oh God, please tell me, what should I do next? Meng Yu, come to my office, the class teacher called out during my moment of gloom. Which brightened my spirits. Our class teacher was a young woman, and my mother always tried to win her over by gifting her designer handbags to look after me. She was incorruptible, having entered this profession with a dream of teaching. She always insisted that I return these bags to my home. But I knew, in this world, no one is incorruptible. You think she is upright and clean because the price you offer isn't something she desires? Absolute power leads to absolute corruption, this time. I didn't just obediently return the handbags, instead, I closed the door to her office and gently pushed the Chanel bag she handed me back towards her. With a smile, I said, Teacher Chan, your bag looks really nice. I moved my chair closer to her and continued under her surprised gaze, Teacher Chan, I heard your husband and child are in Jincheng. It would be great if his job could be relocated to Hangzhou. At the mention of this, her eyes lit up. I lowered my voice so only the two of us could hear. My father has a comrade who is a key figure in Hangzhou's personnel department. After pondering for a moment, Teacher Chen took the bag back and said softly, This bag was recommended by your mother. It is indeed beautiful. Teacher Chen was very efficient. Before the class bell even rang, I found myself seated next to Su Sun, and Fu Ran, who was previously seated close to us, was now distant miles away, fuming with anger. He was helpless. Under the class teacher's carrot and stick approach, Susan had no choice but to set aside our past grievances and reluctantly became my math tutor. Susan taught half-heartedly. But I studied with utmost seriousness. In this new chance at life, I truly did not want to be a useless person dependent on others anymore. Yet, math was truly nauseating. For those who excelled, like Susan who always scored full marks, they were genuinely brilliant. For those who struggled, like me, sometimes even scoring in the single digits. Once again, I was stumped by a giveaway question. According to Su Sun, this type of question has been explained twice by Old Wang. And I have gone over it 3 times with you. If you still don't get it, I suggest you give up on math. The way he looked at me was as if he was staring at an idiot. A surge of anger rushed to my head. Su Sun, I'm mad. Don't underestimate me. I will solve this problem today no matter what. Half an hour later, Su Sun came over. Pfft, in a fit of anger, you just wrote a solution, he said, his eyes twinkling with a mischievous gleam. That was the first time I saw him smile. Time seemed to freeze. My mind went blank, and I just stared at him stupidly. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. He looked back at me. At that moment of eye contact, I guiltily turned away and said sheepishly, They say under pressure, people can do anything, but I guess that doesn't apply to math. No sooner had I finished speaking than Su-sun, with his head lowered, started laughing, his ears turning red. Is his sense of humor really that low, Mengyu? Is this really your reason for breaking up with me, Fu Ran? Fuming, threw all the books on my desk to the floor, his voice was loud, drawing the attention of everyone else in the library. I gave him a cold glance and said sharply, "What? They let you out of the hospital before you recovered?" Hearing this, he became even more incensed and started causing a scene, disturbing the other students who were trying to study. Su-sun intervened, "Fu, this is a place for studying. If you're not going to study, please leave." Studying. You think just because you can read a few books, you can steal my girlfriend and beat me? My family has worked hard for generations. How could we lose to someone who's only studied hard for 10 years? You'll end up working for me in the future. There he goes again, this brainless man. Starting another of his arrogant rants, I stood up and said deliberately, 10 years of hard study is precisely what will overcome your family's 3 generations of business. He sneered, "Oh. So you've decided to stick with this pauper?" I scoffed, laughable. "What I do is none of your business." "What? You think the injury you got last time wasn't enough, and now you want to be completely cut off?" I glared at him provocatively, speaking venomously. Thinking about the pain he experienced last time, he instantly backed down. "Mengyu, I'm going to tell your parents. You just wait." Ridiculous. With that, he walked away, tail between his legs. I picked up the books from the floor and got back to studying. When Su-sun tried to say something, I spoke first. "Last time, you misunderstood me. I wasn't using you to get back at him. I have nothing to do with him anymore. Last time, it was him, desperate, who spoke those words. He kissed me. It was against my will. I even thought about calling the police on him for harassment. So, please believe me, I really didn't. I was anxious to clear up the misunderstanding." My words tumbling out incoherently, but before I could finish, he interrupted, "I believe you." No need to explain, I believe you, really. It felt as if the moon in my heart had risen again, and the stars shone brighter.
Yeah.
Su-sun seemed to hesitate for a moment, then asked, "But why do you treat Fu Rin like that?" Memories of being thrown out of my house in a previous life, stripped and humiliated in the snow by the man I loved from school uniform to wedding dress, surged through my mind. This love had nearly driven me to death back then. I held back my sadness and replied, "Because he made my life a living hell." Su-sun was somewhat surprised, but I couldn't and didn't want to let him know about these humiliating experiences. All I could do was laugh it off and change the subject. "Also, because the person I truly like is you." At that, Su-sun really didn't press further. Instead he blushed, lowered his head, and went back to his work. Seeing that he didn't quite believe me, I suddenly had an impulse, took his hand, and confessed seriously, "Su-sun, life is short. From now on, let me be with you, okay?" He was stunned for a few seconds, then quickly withdrew his hand, his neck turning an embarrassingly bright red. "Solve this problem first. It will make my life a bit less bitter." Reinvigorated, I diligently worked through the problems. Our relationship gradually eased. He taught me math every day, and I brought him lunch every day. "Auntie, please make some extra sweet and sour ribs in the blue thermal box, and double the rice portion, twice as much as mine." Housekeeper Aunt Zhang nodded with a smile. All right. It seems young Master Fu has a sweet tooth. Boys his age do eat a lot. I'll pack some extra for him. It's not for Fu Ran. If he so much as ate a grain of my rice, I'd have to call the police." "Then for whom?" "Oh, don't worry miss, I won't tell anyone." I hugged her waist and cooed, "Aunt Zhang, you're the best. Please double the bird's nest in the blue box too. He studies so hard, he needs to replenish." "He's a big boy, he shouldn't be eating bird's nest with you. I've prepared 8 treasure tea with fine ginseng for him." My words were sweeter than honey. "Aunt Zhang, you understand so well, and your cooking is so delicious. I love you to death, always clowning around. Go to school now, under my careful feeding." Su-sun visibly became healthier. He no longer had to eat tasteless and greasy food in the cafeteria. Gradually, he gained weight, no longer so thin that a gust of wind could blow him over. Every day, I unwaveringly supervised him finishing a bar of chocolate with a glass of milk. His academic performance became even more frightening. Even before the college entrance examination, several prestigious universities had already extended their offers to him, with his tutoring. My math grades also started to improve. Now, he didn't just tutor me in math, but in other subjects as well. With his support and my own relentless efforts, my grades soared. In this life, I am determined to carve out a grand path for myself, because I know my father's downfall is inevitable. A crisis does not form overnight. It had been brewing since my childhood. All I can do is make myself strong enough that in 10 years, without relying on anyone, I can stand shoulder to shoulder with Su-sun, even if the world changes, even if the constellations shift, years later, the world will also be ours, Su-sun, I want us to meet at the peak. And during the climb, I want to be the one by your side, forever. In this life, with my efforts, a seed of love has quietly sprouted in our hearts. We understand each other without needing to say a word. After resolving that misunderstanding, he started calling me princess again. I asked him, why do you always like to call me princess? After thinking it over seriously, he said, the day you offered me sweet and sour pork ribs as a friendly gesture. You were like a princess saving the world from suffering, though high above, you are extremely kind. I laughed brightly but felt a bit puzzled inside. In my past life, I never made the first move towards him. Why did he still call me princess later on? But the answer doesn't matter anymore, because, in the long journey of life, I will be there with you. The day the autonomous admission exam at University A ended, I went to use the restroom, and just like that, Su-sun disappeared. A bad premonition welled up inside me. Sure enough, it was Fu Ran who had found Pei Pei, and they used the dirtiest and most despicable means to bully Su-sun, during this period, because I was always by Su-sun's side. Pei Pei didn't have the opportunity to lay hands on him. This time, they dragged him into a small alley near the school. By the time I got there, a few people were holding Su-sun, while Fu Ran and Pei Pei took turns hitting him. Su-sun's face was contorted, his hands covering his abdomen. Falling to the ground in pain, his breathing was rapid and unstable, sweat beading on his forehead, but he clenched his teeth, refusing to let any moans escape. Pei Pei spat out, damn, such a tough bone. Won't beg for mercy even close to death. Just as his fist was about to hit Su-sun again, I pulled out my phone to make a call. Hearing the sound, Pei Pei turned to look at me with ill intentions and walked towards me. What? Miss Meng is going to call the police. I clenched my fist, staring back at him fearlessly. He arrogantly continued. Ha! Call the police. Doesn't Miss Meng know what my uncle does in the police department? As he was about to snatch my phone, I immediately spoke with a crying tone. Hello, Dad, I'm in the alley by the school, please come save me. Hearing this, Pei Pei panicked a bit. Fu Ran, didn't you say her dad went to Beijing? I threatened. Even if he went to Beijing, try touching me and see what happens. Fu Ran, does your family's company no longer want to go public? Right then, the shrill sound of police sirens grew closer, the group panicked and scattered. I helped Su-sun up and took him home, all the way. Looking at his injuries, I felt both sad and guilty. If it weren't for me, those scoundrels wouldn't have targeted him. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have been hurt today. Princess, Su-sun interrupted my ramblings and continuous apologies. This is the 100th time you've said sorry. Sorry, am I being too annoying? The 101st time? I never expected that Su-sun would be living in the medical staff quarters where I lived as a child. The once bustling medical staff quarters were now dilapidated and barely inhabited. Su-sun's home was old but clean. After knocking, Su-sun's grandmother, with her hair fully white, opened the door for us. Her vision was somewhat blurry, and her movements were no longer as nimble. Yet, Grandma knew he had been hurt and kept asking him if he had been fighting with someone. Su-sun was hesitant and couldn't give a clear answer. I took it upon myself to explain to Grandma. Grandma, I'm Su-sun's classmate, Meng Yu. You didn't know, but today I was bullied by some thugs, and Su-sun rescued me. However, he got hurt in the process. Grandma, he's my hero. After hearing this, Grandma first praised Su-sun extensively, then, she began to grumble about telling the teacher to seek justice for us. After much persuasion from me, she finally agreed to temporarily hold off on reporting the incident and went to make us some noodles instead. Once we got to Su-sun's bedroom, I began applying medicine to his wounds. Before we even finished, his expression suddenly twisted in pain. Play on the computer for a bit. I need to use the restroom, he said, leaving me alone, utterly bored. At that moment, an old-fashioned computer that was turned on caught my attention with a particular folder. I clicked on it, only to find it required a password. The stars in the sky blink and wink. Seeing this phrase, my hands involuntarily typed a few characters on the keyboard. There's a rag doll by the roadside. To my surprise, it unlocked. It was as if an autoplay button had been pressed. The nursery rhyme echoed in my mind, recited by a gentle female voice once again. Inside the folder were numerous diary entries from Su-sun's mother. December 25th, 1996. Today, I found out I'm pregnant and was also promoted to attending physician. I've worked so hard for so many years, and finally, I have a good return. All this good fortune must have come from you, my baby. You truly are Mommy's lucky star. Let's call you Little Lucky Star. May 20th, 1997, just at the unit, my senior colleague personally examined me and confidentially told me that it's a boy. Su Chang asked what name we should give to the child, since his nickname is Lucky Star. Perhaps his formal name should be Wuyo. Su Wuyo, Su Wuyo, may you live a life free of worries. Wuyo, your mom and dad will love you dearly. March 17th, 2002, my Wuyo really loves candied haws, just like his father. So fond of sweets, I've been promoted to chief physician, but I still owe it to my senior colleague's recommendation. It turns out her husband is so capable, holding such a high position at such a young age, but she always has a drink before going to the operating table. A habit that no amount of persuasion can break. I'm really worried something might happen, but on a happier note, Su Chang's sketches are selling better and better, and everything at home is moving in a good direction. Our savings have also started to increase. Wuyo asks every day for a little brother or sister, which isn't feasible. I didn't realize when Su Sun had sat down beside me. I jumped, quickly wiping away my tears, but before I could explain or apologize, he spoke first. It turns out that he, like me, once lived in an incredibly happy family. His mother was a doctor and his father a painter, with favorable family conditions. He was the apple of their eye. That was until his mother passed away. Every child wishes for their parents to be in love, except me. Ever since the year my mother passed, my birthday wish every year has been for my dad to stop loving her. Unfortunately, heaven didn't heed my wishes. He continued to love her forever, loving her so much that he was willing to give up on me. And even life itself. Su Sun spoke these words with a calmness as if a light breeze was passing by, yet, my tears, once again, began to fall. Su Sun's mother had died from complications during a premature labor due to a medical accident, yet, his father blamed everything on Su Sun. Disaster. As everyone calls me, people usually detest their nicknames, feeling insulted by them, but I can't because this nickname was given by my father. He said I was a disaster. That I caused the death of my mother and sister. My original name was Su Wuyo, meaning a carefree, but he changed it to Su Sun. He said, how could I live a life without worries after causing the death of my mother and sister? Su Sun's eyes were hollow as he stared out the window. His tone so neutral it was as if he was talking about someone else's life. Dad was right. The premature labor was my fault. I insisted on having gourds in the middle of the night, at that hour. Most shops were closed. My mother, pregnant with my sister, had to cross several streets before she found some. On her way back, she suffered from hypoglycemia. He suddenly stopped speaking, as if choked by a lump in his throat. After a while, he began again. Actually, there was still a chance when she was taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, the surgeon was her colleague who liked to drink before operating. At that moment, time seemed to freeze, my ears buzzed, my mind went blank. And suddenly, I couldn't hear anything. I don't know how I managed to leave Su Sun's house. I wandered the streets, dazed, until the biting cold wind finally snapped me back to reality. In fact, Su Sun's mother's colleague was my own mother. 10 years later, the downfall of my father was because he had been covering up for her. In my memory, my mother was under a lot of stress, so she often drank. No one could persuade her otherwise. Gradually, her drinking became alcoholism. Operating while drunk inevitably led to several medical accidents, all of which were initially covered up by my father, until one incident got media attention and my father couldn't suppress it any longer, leading to a scandal. Patients who had been harmed because of this eventually came forward. In the end, my mother was dismissed from the hospital, but with the last of his influence, my father managed to protect her. My father, however, took on all the blame and was sentenced. It turns out the mine laid by my parents was more dangerous and earlier than I had imagined. This mine not only destroyed the me 10 years from now but also left the current me utterly devastated. Suddenly, I seemed to understand. Why was I able to decipher that code? I remember that gentle and beautiful aunt who would sing nursery rhymes to comfort me when my mother was drinking. It was Su Sun's mother. Fate is indeed ironic. Only now do I understand what that piece of chocolate Su Sun had meant. 10 years later, it symbolized the overwhelming love he held back. Considering how capable he is, he must have known about our connection all along. That's why he always kept our relationship strictly platonic, and that's why he gave me just enough to get by, no more, no less. I stood by the riverbank, the winter wind chilling to the bone, the snow fell heavier, thick as goose feathers. I stretched out my hand, and a silver petal landed in my palm. Past and present life flashed before my eyes. Scene by scene, I stood there for a long time, so long that I lost all sensation. Su Sun, if heaven is willing to give us another chance, it means our fate is destined. Whether you are Su Sun or Su Wuyo, you are the love of my life, Mengyu. We are destined to embrace each other in this world filled with pain and love. If it's meant to be, I wish to walk through life with you. If it's a doomed fate, I will follow you to the underworld, Mengyu. I looked towards the voice. At the end of the long street, the twilight was dim. Su Sun stood there, his figure upright. My tears instantly overflowed. He walked towards me, step by step. I've been looking for you for a long time. What are you doing here alone? My voice was almost too hoarse to speak. How did you get here? You looked like you were in a trance when you left the house. The more I thought about it, the more wrong it seemed, so I came looking for you. Su Sun took off his scarf and wrapped it around my neck. I felt warmth spread through me. I looked at him, my vision blurring more and more. Soo-sun, you are the one I would choose even if the whole world were against it, even if it means being cursed by thousands. I still decided to give it a try, even if I'm just a small page in your story, even if I can only be a small wave in the river of your life. I have to tell you. I took a deep breath, looked earnestly into his eyes, and slowly began. Soo-sun, do you know why I was able to decipher that code? He looked back at me, silent. It's because that nursery rhyme was taught to me by your mother. Hearing the word mother, his eyes lit up. I continued. And my mother was the senior sister mentioned in your mother's diary. His pupils dilated, and his face turned pale. He stood there motionless for a long time, like a marionette. His reaction was as expected. Time slowly passed, until we were both covered in a thick layer of snow. I slowly said, let's go home. Goodbye. Soo-sun. I turned around, crying inconsolably. Today is my 17th birthday. Soo-sun is not by my side, facing the heavy snow. I make a wish, dear heaven. My wish for my 17th birthday is for Soo-sun to be safe and healthy for the rest of his life. In the days that followed, Soo-sun and I seemed to return to the way we were at the beginning. I couldn't bring myself to reach out to him anymore. Even though I still placed chocolates on his desk every day, I never saw him eat them, nor did I see him throw them away. However, the fact that he still chose to sit with me was a good outcome. I didn't hope for anything more. Soon, winter passed and spring arrived. The college entrance exams were approaching, and time became increasingly tight. This time, driven by a frenzied determination, my grades improved steadily. Although I still struggled with math, fortunately, I knew Soo-sun's habits well. He would mark important questions with a red pen. I could sneak a look. His notebooks were meticulously organized, categorizing various methods and common errors, the handwriting neat and the arrangement clear, and since he never took his notebooks home, I easily obtained what could be called a top student's treasure trove. After overcoming my weaknesses, my ranking steadily closed the gap with Soo-sun. The mallow flowers bloomed, and the long summer stretched ahead. Once again, I entered the examination hall for the college entrance exams. After the results were released, I was ranked first in the school. Soo-sun's results couldn't be found. Top universities like Tsinghua and Peking tried to call him but couldn't get through. They came directly to the school to recruit him. Later, I moved some money from home and, under the guise of the nanny, Mrs. Zhang, I gave Soo-sun 1 million yuan in the name of sponsoring the top scholar. In the future, he would need this money as startup capital. In this life, I didn't want him to exhaust himself again, slowly saving up this money through sheer physical toll. As a result, I was whipped by my father and left covered in scars, because I told him that I had gambled away the million yuan. For several days, I was beaten so badly that I couldn't get out of bed. But ultimately, as his daughter, after he sternly warned me never to gamble again, he let me be. On the day of our graduation dinner, I drank several bottles of alcohol. Alcohol emboldens the cowardly. Once again, I found myself outside Soo-sun's apartment. He came downstairs and upon seeing me, his eyes shimmered with emotion, but he hesitated to speak. The sky was overcast. Rip came downstairs and upon seeing me, his eyes shimmered with emotion, but he hesitated to speak. The sky was overcast, ripped apart by a dazzling streak of light. Looking at his face, so familiar, I felt like crying. Soo-sun, I know you can't accept me, but that's okay. Can you let me finish what I have to say? Seeing my tearful eyes, he could only nod. Soo-sun, in the days to come, you must take good care of your health. You can't keep eating pickles and fermented tofu every day. You need better nutrition. Also, no matter how busy you are with your studies and career, you must get enough sleep. Of course, there's one more very important thing. After you graduate from college, you must get a thorough annual checkup, especially your liver. I was getting more urgent and emotional as I spoke, but before I could finish, he interrupted me. Menu. Let's go to hell together. His voice was cool and detached, and I was taken aback for a moment. Huh? I stared wide-eyed, the sudden warmth on my lips rendering me momentarily speechless. When I came to my senses, I hugged him back tightly. Large raindrops began to fall. Soon, the rain was like a curtain, pouring down heavily. Princess, it's raining. His voice was right by my ear as I looked out over the city shrouded in mist, feeling as if I were dreaming. The rain kept getting heavier, yet I couldn't bring myself to let go. It had taken all my strength and all the luck of my lifetime to embrace you so completely. A decade later, my parents ended up with the same fate. During these 10 years, no matter how much I tried to persuade, I couldn't change the fact that my mother was an alcoholic, of course. My father's increasingly wayward path didn't change either. That was to be expected. I had seen his confession after he was caught. In the video, I didn't see any heartfelt remorse. All I saw was him accepting his fate with composure. So no matter how many times I might relive this life, I can't change that inevitable conclusion. Soo-sun still ended up with cancer, but fortunately, it was discovered early this time, thanks to my meticulous care over the past decade. and his rigorous exercise routine under my watch, along with his early nights and early mornings, his body managed to withstand the surgery to remove part of his liver. Because he was in good physical health, he recovered quickly. However, the doctors said there was a possibility of recurrence. So he needed to live a regular life and keep his spirits up. I smiled confidently. With me around, I won't give those cancer cells any chance. 31. Susan. The hardships of fate have pushed you to the edge of a cliff, so let me sit with you at this cliff's edge, admire the flowing mist and fog, and from now on, we'll be inseparable in life and death. End of text. Susan side story. 1. Actually, calling Manuel a princess started with our first meeting. Back then, my grandmother always tried to sneak into the rich neighborhood to scavenge through trash, because even the garbage bins of the wealthy were full of treasures. One day, she was caught by security. She was pushed to the ground and couldn't get up. After receiving the call, I ran frantically to the rich area until I found my grandmother, and only then did my heart slightly calm down. While helping my grandmother home, I passed by Manu's house. At that time, she was hosting a birthday party. Her home was splendid, like a castle from a fairy tale. I saw her parents, relatives, and many classmates all around her. She stood in the center, smiling brightly and radiantly. And there I was outside, peering in, like a rat in the gutter, trying to glimpse the world's most beautiful princess. Unexpectedly, we met again at school later. Her boyfriend forced her to pick food for my plate, but all I had in my bowl was the free pickled vegetables from the cafeteria. At that moment, my inferiority was fully exposed. I knew she despised my food because it wasn't what her kind would eat. Luckily, she didn't eat it because how could a princess eat such things? Perhaps it was a whim. But before leaving, she gave me a piece of chocolate, too, yet her casual gesture stirred ripples in my life. When we met again, the once high and mighty princess was selling sweet potatoes, covered in dirt. She silently endured the mockery from her former friends. Seeing her like this choked my heart. By then, I knew about her parents. I also knew the unscrupulous doctor who operated on my mother and sister was her mother. But later, I thought it through. My father had directed all his resentment towards me. I had experienced that suffocating feeling, so why should I let history repeat itself on her? I took her home and treated her like a friend, suppressing my overwhelming love for her because I was afraid of scaring my little princess. Through our time together, I felt the warmth of life. Successful in my career, the world is grand and brilliant, but it is also dark and bloody. No matter what the world is like, I will forever be an outsider. Like duckweed, like a lost soul, until the princess appeared again, giving me a sense of grounding. She brought me warmth and sunlight, giving me a reason to live in this world. She is my journey home. I had hoped to let everyone know I love you when the clouds and fog cleared, but heaven didn't allow me to wait for that day. If I could live another life, my princess, could you come to my side a bit sooner?